Welcome, generators, operators, destroyers. I got a nice little topic that's probably going to do some numbers. And I want to tell you why your career does not matter. Yes, yes, yes. Careers will be a thing of the past. Let me take a drink. Let me take a drink. Mm-hmm. Okay. America is a corporation. Okay? The corporation has an end date. And as long as the people that is tied to the corporation accepts the program, the more they can be chained by the neck to it. Okay? Now understand that the program, their God is capitalism. And while there is still capitalism, the material goods, the cars, the clothes, the hoes, the jewelry, all the shiny things that are of the false light, as long as you accept that program and you continue to consume in the program, then the program is still active and it's alive. Now, ever since the Big C that happened in 2020, the shutdown, where they basically did an experimentation on you, took away your jobs, gave you the juice, and told you the only way to get a job was if you take the juice. And I'm saying this as a nurse. I seen this happen. The longer that you're going to stay in this program. So if they take the jobs away from you and find a different alternative to make things faster and to keep you in the program, then the next step is automation. The next step is artificial intelligence. The next step is the robots. Okay? So let me explain to you. I'm going to give you about 10 professions that most people tend to go to. And I'm telling you right now, although it might look good in a sense, it's not good to pursue anymore. I'm going to tell you right, why is that? Because when you go to college, and most of you come from abusive backgrounds, more poor backgrounds, and you don't have money to go to school, the first thing they dangle in your face is them student loans. Am I right? They did it to me. Okay? And what they doing right now, 2025, they told you by January, they gonna start garnishing in checks if they don't get that money. Because they know that none of y'all have the money. They know a good majority of y'all want out of the program. They're seeing that there's so many people that hate their jobs. They hate these careers. That's not helping nobody because, again, it's tied to a corporation. They're monitoring that. And they're monitoring in the metaverse, in the World Wide Web. They seeing you posting, why I quit as a teacher, why I quit as a nurse, why I quit as a doctor, why I quit as a police officer, why I quit as a tech, this, and that. They're seeing that, they're noticing, and it's like, okay, let's cue the robots. Let's cue all this thing so we can put them back in the system. And then also start garnishing their wages. We know they ain't got the money. And then when they start garnishing the wages, and you see that's happening right after Christmas. You see how they mess with your emotions right after Christmas. All that's going to do is put a pit in your stomach. And it's going to make you want to get a second, a third job. It's going to try to make you pull out more loans. It's going to make you want to go back to school. It's going to make you want to get up, although you can't. You're physically ill. You're unwell. You need a sabbatical like I did. Because like I said, at my sabbatical, I took off for 6 months. I rested for a total of 3 years and lived off my savings. Go back to my first video. And I said, I see the world from a different lens. Just like off of They Live when he wore them glasses. And he started seeing things on the billboard that said, buy, consume. I started seeing that. I said, oh, shoot, okay. I'm in hell. This is where I'm in hell. I'm in hell. So this is why I want to tell you, I said, every day of the week, every month, after you didn't consume, you had your Thanksgiving, you had your Halloween, you had your Christmas, you didn't spend all your money at their favorite other businesses that's also tied to the corporations. And now they got another thing to get you tied back into the corporation is student loans. Knowing damn well there's barely any jobs. They're laying off people more than ever. You can't pay for that. Let me tell you why that careers don't matter anymore. Your creation matters. What you can do with your hands matter, okay? Okay? So I'm gonna give you about 10 careers and I'm gonna tell you what it's tied to. And then we're gonna get into about some occult teachings and some history on why none of these careers align with your purpose on the planet, okay? That's just it, what it is. I'm only interested in talking to people who want to elevate their consciousness. If you like this program some more and you're so elated, anxious, and all these things that are happening, it's going to motivate you to keep clocking into work, make you go back to school more and rack up more student loans, only to get to a job and realize that you hate it, and you realize that you're actually not necessarily helping people, you're helping the corporation. I'm not talking to you. I'm only talking to people who actually want to do something with their lives, fulfill their purpose, and get the fuck on. Okay? Get the fuck on. So, listen to me, okay? I'm even sweating because I'm very passionate about this. I'm telling you, I used to be a nurse and I hated this. I hated being a nurse. But I made the most money. I didn't racked up back in the C19, but I racked up under the guise of people dying. You know what I'm saying? I racked up under me helping somebody get a shot. You know what I'm saying? Helping somebody stay on a ventilator. I said, that's not true health. You know what's true health when I got on my sabbatical? You know where the real emergency department, the real hospital is? Is in my kitchen. That's my first hospital. My kitchen. So let me give you these 10 career fields, okay? Excuse me. I have some energy pent up. Okay. Now, when I was taking my sabbatical, I was noticing, I said, damn, all these teachers is quitting. And I remember I seen that dude, he was like, don't nobody know how to do their times tables. Don't nobody know how to read past the 3rd grade. I said, The children are not the future. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. As much as wilding these children are doing right now, I said it has to have started since the start of the American corporation. I'm telling you, it has to, because none of these kids, I'm going to say all of them, since you are raising iPad kids with the attention span of a nut, you know what I'm saying, who scrolling on TikTok and can only look at a video for a span of 15 seconds. Okay, so I needed to switch back over to my phone because punk ass Apple keeps deleting my videos, so I have to start over. So sorry. So I'm switching over to my phone. It's probably a better quality anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna go over 10 professions and I'm gonna break down and tie it all into the government and how it's all tied to a corporation. And when I talk about the government is to rule over the mind. Mint means mind, govern means rule, okay? And how all these professions, these so-called jobs and careers, were all built off corruption. And this is why I said it in my first video and my second video that right now we are in the midst of the end of the corporation. And the only way to end the corporation is to destroy it, okay? So I left off where the children are basically being chaotic and they are not going
towards the program. They see it didn't work for their parents. They see they not working it for your teachers, and they are rebelling against the program. When you got people like, who's that streamer? I don't know him that much. They call it Kai Cenat. If he's sitting here making millions of dollars, of course he has a personality on the World Wide Web, and you got a child right now who's probably struggling just to eat, seeing his mama pick up 1, 2, 3 jobs, probably don't have a daddy in the home, which is very unfortunate. And then you seeing somebody online who's content creating, who's possibly making what, thousands, millions of dollars just by setting up a phone. They like, what's the point of going to school? What's the point of doing any of that stuff that our quote unquote parents have told us to do, to obey and to conform to a system? What's the point of doing that when it hasn't even got my mama nowhere? Okay? It hasn't even got my mama nowhere. So I want to take about 2 chapters from my book before we get into those 10 professions and tie it all together, okay? So in my book, I talk about the 6 major components that focus us to choose the pursuit of happiness versus joy, okay? So my book is What Will the Heart Weigh Against the Feather? You can cop that on Amazon. Take your parents, for instance. They inherited knowledge from their parents, whether helpful or harmful, and passed it down to you. But the source of that knowledge matters. A parent must first master themselves before they can hand you the keys to your own life. Parents today are not teaching children discernment, which a child needs as a tool for navigating life. Instead, they teach obedience, a mechanism favored by capitalistic societies that rewards conformity, not individuality. Children are told to follow instructions, not because it's right, but because it's what their parents were taught to do. And when that pattern goes unchallenged, the cycle repeats itself in the next generation. One should question everything they are being taught, because that just might be your own demise. As a baby, you know nothing. You forget who you are. You accept or reject your parents, who then take you through their child rearing process. But when the process comes from adults without self-knowledge, it doesn't guide, it simply programs. Let's look into the word obey. Obey. Remember when he started putting on them glasses and he started looking at the world from a different point of view? That's exactly what happened to me when I took my sabbatical. When I took my sabbatical, and I initially started with 6 months, and then I decided that I needed to go further in depth, and I lived off my savings for a total of 3 years, and I had the choice to work. I started looking at the world from a different point of view, and I started looking beyond my 2 eyes, and I realized, okay, I'm in hell. I'm in hell, okay? So this is what I've learned. Obey. The word obey comes from Latin obedire, meaning to listen or to pay attention. The root ob means toward, and odire means to hear. Obedience began as active listening, but over time it was changed. It became submission, compliance, not to inner truth, but to outer authority. You weren't taught to question, you were taught to simply comply. Now look at the world. Do you see everyone holding those keys to a better life? Poverty, mass destruction, war, genocide, illness, generational curses, prisons, mental illness, death. Shall I go on? The world reflects how far we have not come. Most, not all of our parents never gave us the keys because they never received them either. I'm not blaming the parents because your parents didn't give you the keys either. Generational curses. Okay? But would you believe me if I told you that in this realm, none of that matters? Stay with me. Because we're all on a program called the pursuit of happiness. Whether it's acceptable in society or frowned upon, in my eyes and in my experience, it's still a journey. And in my belief, it's their journey. The only way to reach it is to go through it. So right now, your parents are probably advising you to go ahead and probably go to college. And then when you go to college, especially if you come from poverty, I'm talking about people who are from impoverished backgrounds, who ain't got shit to their name, and they want you to sit here and go to college or get a 4-year degree, take out all these loans, only for you to still be enchained into the system and sitting here and have to pay back all these student loans, and the salary that they so-called promise you that will go with these 10 professions that I'm gonna break down don't even match. They sold you a dream. They sold you a dream. They sold you more poverty. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, the 30-year mortgage just switched to 50. They changed the rules to the game because they know you can't afford it. They know you can't afford it. Okay, so I want to talk about the education system and then we'll move on. Education. Formal education demands over a decade of your life, promises success at the end of a long process. But the truth is, your education is a training system for obedience and survival to a life of happiness. From kindergarten to college, 18 to 25 years, we're trained to turn away from ourselves and adopt into a system called the rat race. As the anonymous author of The Occult Technology of Power admits, the anarchy of private education in which any manner of dangerous ideas could be spread could not be tolerated. In other words, truly free, independent learning is treated as a threat. Private paths of study that are made financially impossible for most people through debt, taxation, and regulation, while state-approved schooling is presented as the only responsible option. The purpose is not to grow sovereign, thinking beings, but to shape how we see power, teaching us that institutions of coercion and monopoly exist for our own good, and that the wealthy are now checked by a government supposedly ruled by the people. In a system like that, independent thought is not encouraged, it is carefully managed. Your schooling was only for you to become a worker. It was not truth. It was not education. It was only for you to clock in for a job. And if I could get 60 to 65 years, what is it now for the retirement age? 65 years out of you? Then that's a good deal, huh? For somebody that's a billionaire. 65 years it is. And as soon as you break your back, break your knees, and you no longer have to work anymore, I could put you on these pills that I created, put you on these machines that I created, and put you on another subscription plan for life. For life, okay? We're taught to value more possessions measured by salaries, houses, job titles, children, and relationships that serve appearance more than purpose. More ways to distract one from going within to one's own enlightenment. Without reflection, survival becomes the goal. Life narrows to work, bills, consumption, and distraction. All of it wrapped in the illusion of freedom. But the truth is, what they call the dream often turns you away from yourself. Okay? So that's from my book here. Go ahead and cop that. And we'll talk about another chapter in just a bit. We're going to get into like 3 books. Now, let's talk about this 10 professions, okay? There's multiple, but this is what people tend to go to college for and end up with nothing. Or it works out for you, but you realize that it was not your purpose. It was not what you're supposed to do in life, okay? So when I was taking my sabbatical, I was trying to figure out, why are all these people with these so-called prestigious careers are quitting? And this is why I urge you guys to go look up the type of professions that you want to get into, or any profession, any type of job. People are quitting. There's no money in it. There's no life in it. At that point, they realize what they've been taught is nothing but a lie. Their job was for the corporation to keep the corporation running. It wasn't to help the people. It wasn't for them to help themselves, elevate themselves. It was to keep the system running. Stay with me. Okay, so we're going to start with a school teacher. So remember how I was saying, I said the children are unruly. When I was taking my sabbatical, I was just wondering, I was like, these teachers are telling that they can't do times table. They can't read past a 3rd grade level, which is very concerning. The children just do not care, but they don't care because, again, when you're born and raised into survival mode, most of them are. You are not worried about anything that's going on in the education system. You're trying to worry about where your next meal is going, okay? So you got a whole bunch of kids who are born into this realm of chaos. So of course, there's going to be chaos beings who are going to come back onto the planet and wreak havoc on the system. Because they look at their parents and their parents ain't getting nowhere. So what's the point of doing that? It all ties into everything. So what's happening right now is a good thing. And the teachers are rebelling against that, because they tired of getting they ass beat. Children are putting their hands on teachers. They're not paying attention in schools. And then also you got teachers who are bound to the Department of Education to still pass these kids some way, somehow. I keep seeing it, and I said, So if you're not passing your courses, your classes, you're not getting through basic arithmetic, reading, writing, it don't matter anyway, because if I'm not mistaken, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, don't they base the 3rd grade level, if you don't even get that right, they know you're going to land yourself in what, prison? The school to prison pipeline? They got this mapped down to a science. So a school teacher is part of the education system. So your government policy is the Department of Education. It's funded by the Rockefellers. Rockefellers did fund the educational system and the healthcare industry along with Carnegie. Okay? So the goal is not to teach anybody. The goal is to make a society of what, workers. Okay? If you look up the history of the Rockefellers, it gets very dark and sinister. It keeps workforce obedient, trained early, or prepares a child from school to prison pipeline. Okay? I want to move on to the next profession. Nurse, doctor. Like I said, I worked as a nurse. I lasted all but 2 years and 8 months before I had to abruptly remove myself from that profession because I did not like what I was seeing. I didn't like the dark, sinister things. I didn't like the abuse that was going on. The healthcare system, this is who I'm bound by when I'm in the healthcare industry. The hospitals, insurance companies. When I was a nurse, I realized doctors did not call the shots on anything. You know who called the shots on anything? The insurance company. The insurance company was like pulling the strings on the doctor's back. They were like puppets to the insurance company. You could come in and you really need this important medication or you needed this important surgery, and it all depended on somebody at the insurance company who barely was in the healthcare industry, but they understand some numbers, and you don't have the perfect plan, you don't have the money, they can deny you right then and there and give you some generic BS. They don't care if you die. They want you on a subscription plan. Okay, so I realized doctors don't call the shots of nothing. The last time when I went to the doctor and see my PCP, I noticed that doctors are not even touching patients anymore. I had some issues with my throat. He didn't even check me. All I got was some basic vitals. And when he came in, he told me how much he was overwhelmed because he didn't have a physician assistant. And the person who was an administrator, who was in the office, who's not even a healthcare professional, kept putting more patients on the schedule, overwhelming him. And all you get was all but a few minutes. It ain't no 15 minutes no more. It ain't none of that no more. It's getting cut down. So he looked at what I was going through. He said, oh, I know somebody who previously had that. Listen, we can get you on these pills and we can get you on this procedure. I said, oh, hell no. We cool and all. I ain't got no issues with you, Mr. Doctor. But when I gave him all my symptoms, my issues that was going on, he heard it. He believed it was this, and that. And he was like, okay, I'm going to get you a pill. But he did not look at me. He relied on a machine to do that for him. And this is why I said when automation comes through, AI officially comes through, you as a healthcare professional will not be saved. Stop believing that in your head, that your profession, just because you are a nurse or a doctor or x-ray or whatever. No. Chat GPT can analyze all that stuff in one little go and give you what you need. They can give you a first, second, third, fourth, fifth opinion. Your doctor can barely do that because your doctor is overwhelmed. Your nurse is overwhelmed, okay? But that's because we live in a capitalistic society. Everything is about consuming. Getting the patient, aka the customer, what they need. All BS. Listen, I can tell you more and more about the healthcare industry, but I've had enough. I've really had enough of it, okay? So your doctor is bound by the insurance company. He don't run the show no more. That's why if you look up why doctors are quitting, or I quit as a doctor, I quit as a neurosurgeon. And when I seen that, I was like, because anybody that truly cares would not be a part of this. They would break themselves off and try to go help the people in their community, or they come online and help the people online who truly want to do something about it, or they do with something that they're really passionate about and they move the hell on. Okay, this is what I'm doing. So the healthcare system is bound by the government. Again, the ruler of the mind, the FDA, the CDC, Medicare. They are owned by big pharma such as Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson. And your health is only a treatment model only. It is an industry that is not of healing and is endless money. Okay? Your pastor or your priest, any type of religious system, is a religion institution, such as churches, mega churches. It's government protected. You got the 501c3. You got tax exempt, okay? It's used to pacify masses. And it has, again, when I said obey, it uses obedience as fear. It gives spiritual motivation. Motivation to keep going in the system. So on Sunday, when you hitting that tambourine, you getting motivated, because come Monday when you clock in, you got enough motivation to work your Monday through Friday. Do your 8 and skate, if that, because some of y'all got 1 to 2 jobs, 3 jobs, which is crazy. And you never tell them as a pastor or priest who God really is. You tell them that God is something external, nothing internal. All right. And it's funded and started by elite bloodlines, such as the Jesuits and the Vatican. You got police officers or prison guards, okay? They are part of the law enforcement. Again, the government rules them, the DOJ, the DHS, the private prisons. Right now, there's stock in private prisons. All the billionaires have stock in private prison. It ties back into the educational system. So if they know the children are not learning nothing, okay, cool. A few years from now, we're going to catch them in that prison, in that jail. And we're going to make a slave out of them for a few cents on a dollar, okay? It's funded by lobbying groups such as the GEO Group, the Core Civic, ALEC. It enforces laws that benefit the rich and imprison the poor. Tech developers, data analysts. Okay, if y'all remember back in 2020, remember when them content creators was like, I've seen it, because when I used to be on TikTok heavily, I remember all these people that was in tech that deal with the big corporations such as like Google and Microsoft. They were saying all this great grandiose jobs that were happening. And then if you look back 5 years now, they're laying all of you off. So they sold everybody a dream to go ahead, yeah. Quit your previous job, go ahead and get you all your certifications, only to come to now where they laying all of y'all off like it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. Now, I'm not saying that they won't need people when you have the robots coming through, of course, but it's not going to be a great amount of jobs. You're going to be fighting for that job. And I'm highly convinced you could train a monkey to do that. You know what I'm saying? You could train another robot to do that job. It is what it is. Who cares? Who cares? Okay, but let me tell you about big tech. So you got Google, Meta, Amazon. It's contracts with NSA, CIA, military industrial complex. It's controlled info flow and mass surveillance, okay? It's a billionaire class of Musk, Bezos, Thiel. It's the digital overlords, okay? You are a part of the system, the surveillance state system, okay? Then you have social workers or nonprofit staff. It's a part of the nonprofit industrial complex. It's funded by the Gates Foundation, Soros, Clinton Foundation. Oh my God, I can go on about them people, but it's some evilness at work. And y'all need to start waking up, okay? They keep problems alive for funding. It maintains dependency cycles in the poor. Again, it all cycles back to Yo po ass, okay? The military contracted the Department of Defense. War is big business. War is big business, okay? It's a part of the military industrial complex, such as Raytheon, Lockheed, Martin. It's controlled by families and banking systems such as Rothschilds, Rockefellers. Again, it ties back all to the big families, the big five, the big tens families. All right. Influencer, artist, athlete. Okay, you might not believe it, but content creators are a part of a major corporation as well. You are enslaved to big business, advertisement companies. This is why y'all can't say what you want to say on the internet, because they got you chained to advertisements. As soon as they started rolling out them programs for you to get paid, they started locking down them channels. Soon as the 2020 happened and talking about the big C, you had people who were giving you the real truth about what was going on back in 2020, back with the juice, what was really going down, what was happening. Even me, they were shadow banning, they were deleting channels. You can't talk about none of that. And when I was working out, there was somebody that worked for YouTube that was on a news channel. And when they were talking about this, she was saying, oh, it's because the Biden administration, they were threatening us. They were threatening us with lawsuits if we didn't do that. What is truth? That goes back to my first video. What is truth? Smoke and mirrors on the internet. They can delete all that factual information and then upload a plethora of bots that come in and sway you from a different way and tell you some false-ish. Okay, so your influencers, your artists, your athletes, they are part of the entertainment industry. They are controlled by 6 corporations like Disney, Comcast. They're linked to propaganda, distractions. Okay, as soon as you got them shots that came out, as soon as they want you to go vote, whatever BS that they want you to do, it ain't nothing to get a rapper to come come shake it for you and tell you to come get it. Let me tell you, when I was a nurse, I was working in Maryland. They told us to pass out these coupons to Dunkin' Donuts for them to go get the juice. To them to go to get the juice. And let me tell you, them po folks sure did lined up for that one glazed donut. So you sitting here worried about when you gonna get the chip, Agenda 30, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2040, baby, you already done got it. You sold yourself out for some Mickey D's and some Dunkin' Donuts. One glazed donut. They didn't give you the big pack, at least a 6-pack or a 12-pack, baby. They said one glazed donut and called it a day. And I seen people wrapped around a dough for it. Now they sick as a dog. But you wanted to be a part of the corporation. They told you you couldn't work a job without it, which wasn't true. They told me that same BS. Lies. Till this day, if I wanted to go out and go work a job, they not asking me for my list of all my shots no more. They not even asking me to go piss in the cup no more, because they know they can't get workers now because of those so-called fake mandates. Swear for God, I heard somebody, an administrator that told me that directly. She said, as long as you got a good license that's in good standing, that's all we need. We can start you tomorrow. We don't need no juice records. We don't need you to go piss in the cup no more for that. That's because when they started talking about those Band-Aids, they were getting paid for it. It's all about money. They were getting paid to tell you that. Yo, doctor, there was some benefits from that. This is why it says to open up your mind. You know what I'm saying? Stop bounding yourself to the corporation or the program. Because as soon as they start stripping things away from you, like they did back in 2020, and you have nothing to your name, you don't even have the title to your career no more, you are going to lose your mind. Let me tell you something. The most career sector in the healthcare field that's still going to remain today, you can even look this up, is the mental health field. Because they know once they drop this on y'all and they strip away what they've given to you, these vices, y'all are going to lose your mind. Them psych wards is going to fill to the top. The big pharma fill to the top. They know they got money on your head, and you're going to want to cancel yourself out of the game because money was your God. You love the program. Just like if you go watch Matrix, when he was in the simulation, he was telling you all the firefighters, the nurses, the bankers, the people who are on the stock market, they are not ready to wake up out of the program. They will fight it at all cost. This is why I say I only want this channel to be for the guys, the people who really want to know who truth is. You know what I'm saying? Or they believe that they are, they just don't know how, you know? It gets deep. You know what I'm saying? So if we go to so it's linked to propaganda, distractions, and it's managed again by the elite families. You got CEO, business executives, corporate structures. They're all tied to the World Economic Forum, IMF, central banks, BlackRock, Vanguard. During my sabbatical, there was a point where I really needed to figure out what I was going to do with the money. And I did take a portion of the money and invest it. I was like, I wasn't investing into no Roth IRA. I didn't know about real estate investment trust accounts. I didn't know about all these great grandiose things that I could do with the money to make it multiply. And once I started learning about it, because again, my parents never taught me none of that stuff. I had to figure it out on my own. Like I said, I've been on my own since I was 15, honestly. Once I started learning about real estate investment trust accounts, because I can't personally deal with the thought of real estate, people in a home, trying to get them out of a home, long story. And I actually wrote it in my book as well. But once I started getting into real estate investment trust accounts, and I started looking at the corporations that I wanted to start funding myself in, I mean, I started digging deep. BlackRock owned everything. What's up with that? What's up with that? How can you truly make it in the system when all these large families, all these large corporations own it all? It's built off corruption, y'all. So again, you got the actors, musicians. Again, attention is profit, propaganda, all of that is tied to control. BS. BS. So I want to get on to one specific career field. And this is what I've personally been seeing is why doctors are quitting. I just need to go over why this is. So you have African Holistic Health. And it's by Dr. Layla Africa. I learned everything from this man before I became a nurse. I know everything about holistic healing and the belief in my soul that I can heal myself from anything from this man right here. Before I started adopted into a system, believing that since I was in survival mode that I needed to get into this system to make some money, I knew how to heal myself. But I decided to let that go to again get into a system. So there's a section in Dr. Layla's book where he says about the mystery system that I want to read to you, okay? It says medical practitioners of Africa receive formal education by being initiated into the mystery system. Okay, the reason why I want to hone in on the mystery system is because there was a point in time where I had a dream and I realized that one of my lies was I was actually, I owned a mystery school. And that's why I probably so a little bit so passionate about it because I feel like that as humans, we are supposed to know more. Our purpose is not to have one job. We were good at everything. They gave you one job and said stick to it. I'm telling you that you can do it all. And so the reason why I want to talk about just doctors, because most of people who want some prestige or come from a foreign background or impoverished background, most people with families will convince them to become a doctor. And when they become a doctor, they realize that they're dealing with so many mental health issues and they realize that, okay, this isn't health, but I can't escape. I got hundreds of thousands of student loans that I got to pay back. And listen, they got you wrapped in these careers to the day you die. There is no retirement for most of y'all if you don't pivot and create your own businesses. But that don't align with most people's souls, is that job. So I want to talk about the mystery system and why you might feel this way in your career. So a student was selected for initiation just as the students are selected for college via scores and personality profiles. The students, which was called the initiate, could participate in their education on a general education level called the exoteric learning, or on a higher level called esoteric. The mystery system has 7 degrees, levels, or steps of learning before completion. The first degree educates you in the course or base aspect of medicine and is known as Pastor Forest. This system is not confined to medicine, includes all known and unknown sciences. However, the initiate could be educated for a specific area, which is called a major, or a talent, or a combination of areas, majors. In any case, upon completion of first degree, the student advances to neo-course degree, which focuses on the structural energy of medicine, such as energy of shapes, squares, pyramids, triangles, obelisks. Then the melanophorus degree is studied, whereby the student learns the energy forces of non-polarized energies, such as melanin, DNA, energy state, which is created between death and life state. In Christophorus degree, the student learns how to wield the inherent law of plants, crystals, metals, colors, magnets, music in the 5th degree of the Balahat. Every time that I talk to a doctor who is actually honest about their schooling, they tell me that they only learned about nutrition this much. And then they moved on to the next course. Rockefeller education. If you were a doctor, you learned about everything on the spiritual realm and the physical realm on how to heal a person. They got you only healing on the surface level. Okay? In the 5th degree of Balat, the student learns the science of nature and interactions of cosmic law. In the 6th degree of Astronomos, the student learns cycles, astrology, and manipulation of the cosmic forces and their reactions in the cells, thoughts, biochemistry, organs, bones, emotions, vitamins, and minerals in the body, and on the galaxy. In the 7th degree of the Propheta, the student learns all secrets of the higher mystery system and becomes a god. And the gods, what they call now, will have a master or a PhD. Everything that you have now that you see is from the mystery school, a portion. When you graduated into higher levels, they called you gods. Now you're just taking out student loans for a job that you hate. Job that you hate. Because it's not real health. Interesting to note, the word God is not meant in the European Orthodox sense. In African culture, if a chicken had an offspring, which is called children, they were killed. They were called chickens. And if God had children, man, they could be called gods. Is it not written in your law that I said that ye are gods? That's in y'all Bible, Christians. So if God or Jesus is in you, wouldn't that make you a god? If I say that you are the microcosm of the macrocosm, wouldn't that make you something greater? Trying to make you think, okay? The title of God was earned via the mystery system and the application of Ma'at in the daily life. The course completion could take up to 13 years or more, a combination of high school and college today. Today, the course has to be adapted, reduced, and translated and put in a language conducive for the social condition. Africans are in white supremacy. It has to be used as technology for African liberation. The selection of a student in esoteric mystery system would take from 2 to 3 years. Hippocrates spent at most extreme estimate 2 years or less in Africa. His knowledge of medicine would have been the esoteric or a general mystery system course. In other words, Greek and Caucasian medicine is based upon the first books, the first degree. You are getting the mundane level of health as a doctor. The mundane. That's why you don't like it, because you know it's not true health. They gave you the mundane level of learning. Although you learn for years and years and years, very superficial. Okay? Greek and Caucasian medicine is based upon the first book, which is called the First Degree of African Medical Science. Yet with the limited knowledge, Hippocrates cured approximately 3,000 people in his lifetime. He did not know blood circulated in the body. He used the books stolen from Africa along with the information taught by the priest, monk, health practitioners of Asclepius temple cult. Okay? So this was the original Caduceus right here, and it had the man with the bird head, and then it had the snakes that were intertwined with it, and then it had the ankh in the right hand. And this is the modern one that they used. They took out the man's head and they just put with the bird's head, and they just put the wings, and then the snake intertwined with it. So this is what he said. He said, original ancient African caduceus, the symbolic man with the bird's head is holding the ankh in the right hand and snakes in the left. The Caucasian symbol uses the bird's wings instead of the man with the bird's head. Instead of an ankh, which is like a life force, a staff is used and the snakes intertwine around it. Smoke and mirrors. They took ancient mystery system and turned it into something extremely negative. And I'm telling you that we must turn it into something positive for ourselves. Okay, so after we got about that ancient mystery schools when it's related to health, again, the mystery schools helped you learn about everything. You just didn't learn about health. You learned about astrology. You learned about the birds, the bees, all the animals. You learned about the sun, the moon. You learned about the laws, natural laws, okay? The specific one that I like was the crux of the Aleutians, okay? And the Aleutians, they talked about life and death. So let me briefly tell you about them and why it correlates to you, why your career is dead, okay? Why it's going to be a thing of the past. The most famous of the ancient religious mysteries were the Eleusinian, and this is from the Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly P. Hall. Love Manly P. Hall. That's my dog, okay? Whose rites were celebrated every 5 years in the city of Eleusis to honor Ceres and her daughter Persephone. That's actually another name that I go by, Persephone. The initiates of the Eleusinian school were famous throughout Greece for the beauty of their philosophic concepts and the high standards of morality which they demonstrated in their daily lives. Okay. The soul of man, often called Psyche in the Eleusinian mysteries symbolized by Persephone, is essentially a spiritual thing. Its true home is in the higher worlds where, free from bondage of the material form and material concepts, it is said to be truly alive and self-expressive. This is why I tell y'all, I said, although we come to this world after 9 months and we are born and into this material body, this waste. It's really what it is. We are born into our lowest form. Again, we must embrace darkness and light, and we must rise above from the darkness to get to the light. But I don't care how much money you have or whatever that you got on for your life, it's really just a false light. This is why when people get money, they be so lost. Depending on alcohol, vices, smoking, drinking, sex. They don't know how to control themselves from their lower nature and on top. I'm not saying that you can't have it all. I do indulge. I can't say you're not gonna be a millionaire or whatever, but when you get the money, when you find your purpose, what will you do with it? Because when I see people, when they get the money, they lose their ish sooner or later. Okay? The human or physical nature of man, according to his doctrine, is a tomb, a quagmire, a false and impairment thing, the source of all sorrow and sufferings. Plato described the body as the specular of the soul, and by this he means not only the human form, but also human nature. Okay, so the lesser mysteries, this is what they meant. The gloom and depression of the lesser mysteries represented the agony of the spiritual soul unable to express itself because it has accepted the limitations and illusions of the human environment. So if you are a God, you bound yourself to this material plane and this body, this waste, and you are bound to the five senses. You must control the mind and the body at all costs. Every day is a challenge, but you must control yourself to become a better human and live the life that you want, because you are a creator, a God, right? Generator, operator, destroyer, okay? So in the lesser mysteries, the Eleusinian argument was that man is neither better nor wiser after death than during life. If he does not rise above ignorance during his sojourn here, man goes at death into eternity to wander about forever, making the same mistakes which he made here. If he does not outgrow the desire for material possessions here, he will carry it with him into the invisible world, where, because he can never gratify the desire, he will continue in endless agony. Dante's Inferno is symbolically descriptive of the sufferings of those who never freed their spiritual natures from the cravings, habits, viewpoints, and limitations of their Platonic personalities. Those who made no endeavor to improve themselves, whose souls have slept during their physical lives, passed at death in Hades, were lying in rows. They slept through all eternity as they had slept through life. This is why I said, I truly believe that we are living multiple lives, but this life, the lowest of lowest hell, the hell realm that we are in, sets the tone for all the other dimensions, all the other lives. And I do believe that something there is greater. I've seen it, my visions, my dreams, I've seen it. And this is why I said, rise above your lower nature and become the true God that you are. You can have it all. You really can. The money will come. But when you got these nefarious beings who basically use you as a battery or luge and bound you to some meaningless paper, a job, material possessions, you're going to forever stay here. And if you don't work on yourself now, then in your so-called end of life, your death, you're going to probably reincarnate yourself and go back to that raggedy light they tell you. Don't go into the light, go into the darkness. We'll talk about that later. To the Eleusinian philosopher, birth into the physical world was death in the fullest sense of the word. Only true birth was that of spiritual soul of man rising out of the womb of his own fleshly nature. Okay? Majority of people who are not ruled by their living spirits, but by their senseless, hence dead animal personalities. Okay? Okay, let me see. Who is I going to do? I was going to talk about one more quote. Love this quote. So this is page 73. This is a quote from Porphyry. He gives an adequate conception of the Eleusinian symbolism. Now, the Eleusinians, they didn't write down on things on paper. When you got initiated, it was not going to be just like any other mystery school. It was going to be from the brain. So there's minimal information that has gone about the mystery system of the Eleusinians. And most of it has went underground, like most of them. So, porphyry, God being a luminous principle, residing in the midst of the most subtle fire, he remains forever invisible to the eyes of those who do not elevate themselves above material life. On this account, the sight of transparent bodies such as crystal, Parian, marble, and even ivory recalls the idea of divine light, as the sight of gold excites an idea of its purity, for gold can be sullied. Some have thought by a black stone would signify the invisibility of divine essence. To express supreme reason, the divinity was represented under the human form, and beautiful, for God is the source of beauty of different ages. And in various attitudes, sitting or upright, of one or of the other sex, as a virgin or a young man, a husband or a bride, that all shades and gradations might be marked. Everything luminous was subsequently attributed to gods. They telling you, they knew this since the beginning of time, that you light beings are gods. You're all gods. Okay? The sphere and all that is spherical to the universe, to the sun and the moon, sometimes to fortune and to hope, the circle and all circular figures to eternity, to celestial movements, to the circles and zones of heavens, the section of circles, to the phases of moon and the pyramids and obelisk, to the inguinous principle and thought that the gods of heaven. A cone expresses the sun, a cylinder, the earth, the phallus, and a triangle, a symbol of the matrix, designated generations. Now, Cicero from the Eleusinians said that it taught men not only how to live, but also how to die. This is what the channel is for. This is why I enjoy the works of Manly P. Hall and Bobby Hemming. They didn't tell you how to live. They also told you how to die. Dying is good. Dying is good. Only people who have not worked upon themselves are afraid of that. They are afraid of what's next. They don't believe that they're gods. And I'm one more chapter and we'll be finished. This is back on my book. Get my book, What Will Your Heart Weigh Against a Feather? It'll be on Amazon. The Shayla Marshall here. This is Anubis. This is the scale, heart, feather. What will your heart weigh against a feather? Once you walk into this, you will be judged. You will be judged from the underworld. It all starts in 2026. What will you do for the next 9 years? What will you change about yourself for the next 9 years? Anubis is waiting. He's waiting for you. Will you be cold? Or will you be light as the feather in the sand? All of this. Deep. All right, so I'm talking about, we're going to end it after this. Chapter 10 in my book. I got a whole section where I talk about nursing. I told you, nobody's going to get away from what I've experienced, the PTSD that I've experienced in that profession. I was going to tell the truth at all costs, but I didn't know I was going to tell it in a occult way. So I talk about the occult history and the symbolism of nursing. But for this chapter, I'm just going to talk about your professions and why you must break and rid yourself, denounce yourself from all titles. Get your ego away from that. Because this is what matters. This is what matters. Your creations. What you pivot yourself and create on this realm, the third dimensional realm, is waiting for you to create something new, to move yourself forward, move your community forward, move the planet forward. And I'm here to help you know. So when we talk about careers and everything, why careers are going to be the things of the past, I enjoy the words of Jordan Maxwell, okay? So this is from The Matrix Power, The Secrets of the World. This is a quote from him. Nothing in this world operates the way you think it does. Banks do not loan money. Governments are not empowered to protect you. The police department is not there to serve you. Institutions of higher learning, colleges, and educational institutes are not there to educate you. The entire superstructure of civilization in the Western world is a combination of brilliantly put together and well-planned schemes to direct the minds of the people in such a way to serve their masters. Their masters. And so in this chapter, I talk about why I took this damn oath. Who was I praying to? When they put that pin on me, when I raised my hand, what God or deity, who was I devoting myself to? And this is why I say all these careers, you're devoting yourself to a system, a nefarious, evil, sinister system, okay? Let me see. I got a list where I talk about the Hippocratic Oath. Your physicians, you're taking an oath for that. Florence Nightingale Pledge, the oath of office for public officials, government workers, judicial oath, attorney's oath, military oath, police oath, oath of allegiance, teacher's oath, journalist code of ethics, pharmacist oath, scientist oath, researcher's pledge. A devotion towards the corporation, not to your inner truth, but to outer authority. You must obey. Bow down. Okay? Let me read. Okay, so this is my section where I say other professions, same institutions, initiations, I talk about nursing, but I want to just talk about y'all professions, okay? If you want to know more and my history, what happened, and if you want to take a sabbatical, get the book. I urge you, please. So it says other professions, same initiations. This kind of indoctrination isn't unique to nursing. You see it in other career paths too, especially ones tied to authority, prestige, and public trust, where people are required to be sworn in or symbolically pledge themselves to a higher power. Take the military, for example. Soldiers are rewarded with pins, stripes, medals, and ribbons, not just as a recognition, but a validation of sacrifice. Many of them are handed out after pushing the body past its limit. After trauma, war, or loss, you are trained to obey, conditioned to endure, and praised for surviving it, just like nursing. Law enforcement has a similar energy. You wear the badge, take the oath, and you are bound to a code. You are rewarded for loyalty to the system, even when the system goes against your spirit. I know you've seen some spooky stuff in the law enforcement. And I heard it's easy to get into now. They letting anybody in. Antibody. You're told your sacrifice is noble, but it's rarely questioned who truly benefits from that sacrifice or what it costs the individual long term. All these roles have one thing in common. You don't just show up, you are initiated. You swear in, take an oath, wear a uniform, and in some cases even invoke a deity. Doctors invoke Apollo and Asclepius, gods of healing and medicine. Judges and lawyers and politicians place their hand on the Bible during swearing and ceremonies. That isn't just a tradition, it's a ritual. Placing your hand on the Bible represents making a spiritual vow, binding your words to divine truth, as if breaking it would offend something higher than law. Your hand placement, right hand raised, left hand resting on the Bible, symbolize dual enlightenment. They raised hand signals a public declaration to the people, while the hand on the Bible shows submission to a higher unseen authority. It's not just symbolic, it's the covenant energy. You're saying, I'm accountable not only to man, but to God. Even if you don't believe in that God, the ritual still claims you spiritually. Even teachers, clergy, and federal agents go through ceremonies of loyalty and alignment to an institution, not to their individual truth. It's not just work, it's worship. And whether you're in a hospital, a courtroom, a church, or a Congress, your personal power often has to bow first. You are praised for putting yourself last. All right. And I'm going to just go ahead and tell you what career means, okay? The word career comes from Latin carrier, meaning track wheel for vehicles, basically a path you're expected to follow. But even deeper, it connects to the idea of charging forward rapidly. Remember how I said cycles? You're in loops. They name your career cycles, fast track wheels, the rat race. You running on the wheel, okay? Something consuming, something you run through, not necessarily something you live for. When you say you're building a career, what you're really is saying, I'm entering a path that may cost me my peace, my energy, and even my soul, just to reach some invisible finish line. And in some fields like nursing or the military, that finish line is burnout, trauma, or even early death. So the question you have to ask, so when you look at the pen, the oath, the uniform, ask yourself, was this really education? Or was it indoctrination wrapped in titles? And if you are still in it or just got out of it, you probably already know some of the hidden truths of your profession. Maybe you entered this field with pure intentions. Maybe you really wanted to help people, but along the way you started to see things, just like I did. You saw the darkness, the manipulation, the cycles, and whether spoken or not, you were sworn to stay quiet. I know that silence. I've lived it. But the silence doesn't protect you. It just deepens the curse. This system was designed to collapse, and when it does, it's not going to take itself down. It's taking everyone who continues to uphold it right along with it. This is the break it or die type of situation. So here's your moment. Break the ritual or be buried by it. Thank you.